Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. Today's date is December 13, 2020. And I just wanted to hop on here quickly and do a video in support of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is trending on Twitter today because for about the last week, he has been pushing hard, I think a good strategy, for trying to force a vote on Medicare for All in the House. And that would be great because we're in a pandemic that is about 8 times worse than it was at the peak initially, the initial peak back in March and April. It's completely out of control. I think at this rate, we're going to be seeing 500,000 new cases a day in the United States. The United States has more than a third right now of the known COVID cases in the entire world, and they just don't seem to care. They're going to throw a vaccine at us that may or may not work. A lot of people aren't going to take it, and then they're going to, probably just say, that's that, everybody go back to work. And it's going to be a fucking disaster like it still is. We never had an economic recovery after 2008. We're in another massive economic downturn now. Capitalism is breaking down, and they're not really planning on doing anything about it. We obviously need communism. We need to keep building that movement, hashtag Revolution 2030. But in the meantime, we do need healthcare because people are fucking dying. Now. It makes a difference. We need it now. Concession seeking is not generally a good strategy. You should not base your politics on it. Why? Because they only offer concessions when they're afraid of losing their power, like actually afraid of losing their power, meaning just go ahead and take their power, not the concessions. But in this case, I don't think we're at that point right now in 2020 verging on 2021, yet we are in a pandemic, which is turning into a genocide because they're not fucking doing anything about it. We need healthcare. We need people to stop going bankrupt because of medical bills now. It's a nightmare. It's a horrendous situation. I know so many people who can't even watch the news right now because it's just so crushing. And, I do this channel. I do Socialism for All. It helps me process some of this stuff. But we're living in a fucking nightmare, okay? Ever since I started paying attention about 20 years ago, it has just been worse and worse and worse year after year after year. So here we are. Jimmy Dore trending on Twitter today because he's pushing AOC and the entire progressive caucus in the Democratic Party to withhold their votes from Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House. Because the Democratic majority is so slim, all they need to do is get 15 people willing to say, Pelosi, we're not going to vote for you for Speaker. And then it'll just, it could be a Republican at that point. We're not going to vote for you for Speaker unless you bring Medicare for All up for a vote on the floor of the House. And then put it on record who is willing to vote for Medicare for All during a pandemic and who isn't. Now, this would actually be some action. This would be something semi-meaningful, all right? And AOC is balking. She's refusing to do it. And there's a very, very interesting battle being played out right now in terms of who is attacking Jimmy Dore and who's just saying, hey, I may or may not like Jimmy Dore, but right is right, and he's fucking right on this. He is right on this. Now, Jimmy Dore is Jimmy Dore. He's, like he says, a pothead clown. He's a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian. He drinks, he smokes, he's irresponsible, whatever. But he's right about some things in politics. I mean, anyone can be right about something. Even fucking Ben Shapiro is right about things occasionally, even though I don't agree with his overall worldview. Example of that being when all of the, pro-liberty people were trying to be against the shutdown and mask mandates. And Shapiro was like, hey, you guys aren't wearing masks. If our whole argument is let the people take care of themselves, we don't need a mandate. You're not doing a great job. Okay, I got to say, Ben Shapiro is wrong 99 times out of 100, but that's a correct take. Jimmy Dore, I don't think, is wrong 99 times out of 100. He isn't a Marxist and does a lot of questionable shit, but he's totally right on this. So if you're on Twitter, go on there, write some tweets, keep them trending, pressure AOC, and really getting Medicare for All would be helpful. We as Marxists need to keep up the struggle against the entire system. I would love to see people. It's so desperate. It's so desperate out there. It's so hard to watch right now. There's just so much needless death, suffering, poverty. It's insanity. And we need to bring this whole system down. I don't think Medicare for All is going to pass, but we need to keep up the struggle. We need to keep putting people on record. You know, I did a video on this channel. It's actually one of my first videos. I think it was in my first or second month of doing this channel when I was still kind of figuring out. I mean, I guess I'm still figuring out what I'm doing with this channel, but one of the videos I did was Medicare for All co-sponsors not actually in their day-to-day lives supporting Medicare for All. Medicare for All, I think, has like 100 co-sponsors or something. Well, I did a little content analysis of I went through, I took like 12 of them that were supporting Medicare for All, and I looked through their Twitter feeds and I looked through their websites as politicians. And guess what? Bernie Sanders was the only one who even mentioned Medicare for All aside from co-sponsoring it. That's called lip service. That's called bullshitting your base. Okay? Now, look, this is not a social democratic channel. We don't want reform of capitalism. Capitalism can't be reformed. It has fundamental contradictions that can only be resolved by changing the property relations that underpin the entire society, that, you know, a handful of private individuals control industry privately and run it for profit. That's what needs to change. And you can't wallpaper over that. I mean, that's what social democracy is about, is trying to wallpaper over that fundamental contradiction. But it's going to catch up eventually, not to mention that the second that the ruling class thinks that they can revoke their concessions, as soon as it's politically expedient for them to do that, they will do that. But we're still trying to raise consciousness. There's a lot of people who still believe in electoralism, which is futile. Let's at least put it on the record, show that it's fucking futile, because it is. So anyway, just wanted to do a quick video in support of Jimmy Dore. It's always good to see some kind of action going on that pushes back in some meaningful way against the status quo. I don't think Jimmy Dore, again, I don't totally agree with his politics, which I think are unclear even what they are in the first place. He'll talk about socialism sometimes. He'll talk about, like, you know, he's too friendly with libertarians on the other hand. I mean, I think he's a pothead who has found a niche, and I'm not going to say he's absolutely grifting, but coming from me, I'm a channel that has a clear political stance, which is not popular, Marxism. There's a real temptation, I think, among other podcasters to water down their shit to, you know, hit a bigger audience. Let's just say this channel is not at, you know, almost 1 million subs, nor do I think we're going to be anytime soon. That said, I'm not going to be watering my shit down. So, yeah, again, Jimmy Dore, I'm not saying, you know, go listen to every Jimmy Dore video, but right is right, and put AOC on the spot. I think that that's a great thing to do. I don't know, like, how many people I run into in Rose Twitter who even have, like, hammer and sickle emojis in their names, and then they're defending AOC, who has so far done absolutely nothing. Now, I had a pro AOC video, not because of her record or anything, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, because she gave an interview with the New York Times in which she said you can't accomplish anything in the Democratic Party, and she was thinking of, like, quitting, like, politics possibly entirely. And I thought, well, if she's telling people you can't get things done in the Democratic Party, good. I mean, anything we can do to take a step forward and make people, you know, sharpen the class lines and raise consciousness is good. Now, you know, maybe that was her in a candid moment, but then actually under pressure, she's shilling for the establishment, refusing to challenge Pelosi, etc. But hop on Twitter, tweet in support of this strategy, which Jimmy Dore deserves credit for. This was a good move by him. But ultimately, it's not about Jimmy Dore. It's about getting Medicare for All out there, heightening the class struggle, sharpening the class lines, seeing who's on what side, and then we use that. We as agitators and propagandists use that to advocate for communism. I'm going to sign out. Thanks to the current patrons whose names are on the screen. Remember to like, share, subscribe, click the notifications bell, all that kind of thing. And we will catch you in the next video.